Have you ever felt left behind? Like your story was too small, too dirty to be remembered by God? Now listen closely. At the most sacred moment in history, when Jesus conquered death, he could have appeared first to a king, a priest, or one of his apostles. But no, he chose her. A woman, alone, weeping before an empty tomb. Mary Magdalene, the one the world pointed at with scorn. But she was the only one who remained standing when everyone else ran away. And because of that, she was the first to see the light. Maybe today you're in the dark too, but if you stay until the end, you'll understand. When the world forgets you, God still whispers your name. Mary was from Magdala, a village nestled on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. A place of blazing sun reflected in the water, boats creaking at the dock, wet nets drying in the wind, fish sold to the sound of shouting fishermen and women in the market. The air smelled of salt, sweat, and freshly baked bread. But among those ordinary people lived a woman marked by something few could understand, and many judged. Her name, Magdalene, became synonymous with sin, scandal, and redemption. But what do we truly know about her? Luke in chapter 8 says only this: 7 demons came out of her. 7, a number that in Jewish tradition symbolizes totality. In other words, Mary was completely overtaken by suffering. Some say they were spiritual afflictions, others believe they were deep traumas. Perhaps it was a heart wounded by rejection, by shame, or by nameless abuse. Tradition called her a prostitute. But the Bible never said that. What is written, without a doubt, is that Jesus set her free. And from that moment on, she never left his side. While crowds followed him out of curiosity, for healing, or for multiplied bread, Mary followed, because she had already been healed from within. She wasn't seeking a miracle, she walked with the miracle. What the world called a broken woman, Jesus called a restored daughter. She heard the voice of God, in the voice of a man, and that changed everything. Magdalene walked with the 12, yes, with the men. At a time when women couldn't even study the Torah, she learned directly from the Master. She walked the dusty paths of Galilee, watched the sun set behind olive trees, slept under the stars with the other disciples, and listened to parables by the fire. She saw blind eyes open with a touch, heard the cry of the leper restored, "I am clean," felt the earth tremble as Jesus cast out spirits with authority. And while men debated doctrine, Mary understood with the heart. She was there when the widow's son was raised and returned to her arms. When the woman with the issue of blood was called daughter before the crowd. When the adulteress, seconds away from being stoned, heard the words that set her soul free. Go and sin no more. Mary treasured all these things, not in a notebook, not carved in stone, but in her heart. Like someone who guards a rare perfume, only opened when the spirit is still. She didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Her faith wasn't built on speeches, it was built on presence. Being near Jesus was all she ever wanted. On the darkest Friday in history, the screams mixed with the sound of nails. The crowd was restless, the soldiers mocked, and the disciples hid. But Mary Magdalene didn't. She stayed. She stayed when the blood dripped from the cross, forming small pools on the stone. She stayed when Jesus, with his last strength, looked up and cried out, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani?" My God, why have you forsaken me?" She was there when at noon the sky turned to darkness, when the air grew heavy, and even nature seemed to understand that the Creator was dying for his creation. She saw his body removed from the cross, pale, wounded, silent. She saw Mary, his mother, cradle him in her arms, just as she had when he was a baby, now lifeless. But Magdalene still didn't leave. She followed Joseph of Arimathea in silence, watching every step to the new tomb. She saw the stone rolled into place. She knew where he lay. She knew she would return. While many buried the body, she buried her hope. Yet even then, she set aside perfumes, ointments, precious oils. And when Saturday came, she waited. She honored the law, respected the rest. But on Sunday, before the sun rose, before the rooster crowed, before the sky even hinted at dawn, Mary Magdalene was already on her way, alone, because her love could no longer fit inside her home. The dawn still embraced the earth. The streets were empty, the sky still dark. The city slept, but Mary's heart didn't. She walked quickly but steadily, through shadows and stones, with eyes full of tears, a heart crushed, and hands holding the perfume of farewell. She just wanted to care for the body of the one she had loved until the end. But when she arrived, the tomb was open. The stone had been moved, and the body was gone. Imagine the despair. She ran to Peter, to John. They came, entered, looked, and left. They said nothing. They didn't understand. But Mary, she stayed. She stayed, weeping in the absence. Stayed where pain lived. Stayed, even without understanding. And that staying, that silent choice not to abandon, changed everything. Through her tears, she heard a voice. "Woman, why are you crying?" She didn't even lift her eyes. She answered through sobs. "They took my Lord, and I don't know where they put him." Then, another question echoed. "Whom are you seeking?" She thought, it must be the gardener, someone from the grounds. Maybe he could help. But then something inexplicable happened. That man spoke her name. Mary. And the world froze. It wasn't the tone, it wasn't the sound. It was something greater. It was heaven opening inside her. She turned and saw, not a gardener, but him, alive, breathing, with eyes full of tenderness. "Rabboni," she whispered, "Master." She wanted to throw herself into his arms, but he said, "Do not hold on to me. Go and tell them." And in that moment, Mary Magdalene, the woman rejected by the world, became the first witness of the impossible, the first to see the light, the first to hear the resurrected Christ, the first sent by heaven. Jesus didn't say, "Go and keep it secret." He said, "Go and announce." She was a woman. In a time when women couldn't even testify in court, he entrusted her with the message that would change the world. He is alive. That's why St. Thomas Aquinas called her the apostle to the apostles. She was the one who ran to the disciples to tell them what no human eyes had ever seen. She was the one who shattered the silence of death with the cry of resurrection. According to ancient traditions, Mary Magdalene later lived in Ephesus with Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the apostle John. There, her voice kept echoing, until the day she departed to eternity, with the same faith she had when she heard her name spoken in the garden. How many times have you also cried at tombs? Tombs of loss, of silence, of promises that seem dead? How many times have you thought Jesus had disappeared, when in truth, he was standing beside you, waiting for you to stay? Mary Magdalene is the mirror of every faithful soul. She doesn't let go. She doesn't run. She doesn't give up. She teaches us that the love that remains will always be called by name. Maybe today, the tomb is your depression, your guilt, your fear, your loneliness. But the voice still echoes. Mary, John, Anna, Peter. Are you listening? Mary Magdalene is more than a saint. She is the woman who stayed when everyone else left, who believed when everything seemed lost, who was called when the world had discarded her. And as it is written in John 20:18, Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord." She saw, she heard, she believed. And today, she still inspires those who wait in the darkness of faith for the morning to come. If this story spoke to your heart, write in the comments, "I will remain." Because the faith that remains, like Mary's, will always be rewarded with the presence of God. Share this video with someone who needs to know they are not alone in the dark. And subscribe to the Heaven's Breath channel to receive sacred stories every day.